Okay. Hey.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So before we get started, since we're testing our new hybrid classroom, so let's do this. I'm going to move everybody over to a panelist just so we can have it a little more interactive that you're there. Yay. All right. Seeing Matt.
Oh, there we go. All right. Hey, Matt.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Yes, we're testing our new hybrid classroom. We got a digital camera that should make it a little bit easier to see as we go along. So thanks for letting us know that you can see and hear us okay. So lots of people we know. Good to see you, Matt Bale. How are you?
Yeah.
If you unmute, we'll be able to even hear you. It's good to see you. If you don't have your speaker set up or you want to remain muted, that's totally fine. You can ask your question today in the chat, but it's good to see everybody. So today's class is tips and tricks in Paragon. So I have to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been a licensed realtor for 23 years now. Makes me old when I say it like that. But basically, we're going to show you things that I didn't know for a long time. And Debbie and I got together and we said, you know what? It'd be really cool, all those tips and tricks that we figured out by using it, if we could pass those along. That's really today's goal. And of course, you can jump in with any questions. Simply just type them in that questions box that will appear over to the right-hand side. It may be minimized. And I'm going to just mute everybody just to make it easy.
Yeah, everybody does look like they're muted.
So you can unmute yourself. I have given you the ability to be a panelist, so you can unmute yourself if you'd like. All right, so let's get started. So first and foremost, the thing that makes Paragon unique is the fix. I'm going to go ahead and just close this so I can see a little bit better. The thing that makes Paragon so unique is that you can search several different ways and that you can actually customize your searches. So as an agent, one of the things that we sort of begged Brian for many years is we wanted to get the information faster than the consumer. So the problem was consumers were finding information on Zillow and Realtor.com. They were finding it faster than we could, and that was very frustrating to me. The other problem that we had was that we didn't have all of the data in one convenient place, right? Because believe it or not, there are 34 MLSs in the state of Michigan, which is crazy. A lot of states have one or two, sometimes three. We have 34. So about 12 years ago, our CEO, Dave DeReese, said, you know what? Wouldn't it be awesome if we had all the information in our home database, not one database, but everyone able to use their own system, whichever they prefer, whatever MLS they prefer, log in and see pretty much the entire state so you can see all of the listings and all of the comps that you need. Well, I'm happy to say that after 12 years, we're 97% of the way there. Yay. There are 3 more MLSs that we're trying to reach out to because we'd love to bring them on board as well. But the idea is you log into your home MLS and can see all the information you actually need to do your job, and it's about time. Another thing that I mentioned that was a little frustrating to me was if a consumer calls me and they have 15 addresses that they just found on Zillow, I want to be able to type those in one field, hit enter, and find it faster with more information than the consumer can find it. And I'm happy to say we finally built a field that allows you to enter up to 30 addresses in one field, hit enter, and with one click, you can even text it over to your client. So it's getting better. It's finally the tool that we need as agents to have more information than the consumer and find it faster. The cool thing about this new field that I'm going to show you too is that you can even copy and paste into this field. So I literally can get an email from a buyer who sends me 15 addresses. I can literally copy those 15 addresses, paste it in one place, and do one search and pull up everything. So it's about time. So those are some of the tips that we're actually going to cover today. Debbie, you want to say hi? I sort of just started right in today.
Hi, everybody. So glad to see y'all. Actually, and it's nice because usually when I'm saying that, it's just a see you in air quotes, but I actually get to see people today. And we've got people in-house, which is really, really nice. Just one note, don't forget in your webinar, I have uploaded 5 different handouts that should be on your right-hand side. So anything that's closely related to this class is all there. And I'm sure Colleen will touch on where to find all the rest of our 102 cheat sheets.
Woo-hoo.
Just a few.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It is. It's nice. It's nice to see everybody. I got to tell you, it's nice working at home, but I sort of miss people. So it's nice when we get to do these classes in person. All right, so let's start off with the searching. The first way to search is obviously the power search. This is really when you're looking for one address, one agent, or one MLS number quickly. And the power search, by the way, most people don't even know where it is, so I'm just going to show you up here. Right up here in the power search, if you're looking for, let's say 123 Main Street or 123 Cherry Street, whatever it happens to be, you can simply type that into that power search and it's going to come right up. Think of it as kind of like Google-esque search, and less is best. So you don't want to put in the streets, the ways, the boulevards. It'll auto-populate as you start typing, as you can see right here. But let's say you're looking for 123 Main Street and it's closed a couple of times. Well, maybe you want all of the 123 Main Streets because you want to go through those closed records. Then you can actually click on this listings and it will show you how many listings. So listings 10, and you can open up all of those 123 Main Streets. So here's the idea. If you're looking for a single property fast and somebody just called you on the phone, you want to find it in a hurry, this is really where you want to put that information in. Actives and pendings always show up at the top because obviously if you've got a buyer sitting in front of the house, most probably they're calling you off the sign, it's an active or pending. So those shoot always up to the top. But let's say that you did want to see those 10 closed records. You can actually click on the listings 10. It will then open up all of those, and now you could go ahead and sort them. So maybe you want actives with actives, closed with closed. You can actually go to the top of the column heading and simply sort it that way. I have OCD, big jumble. That's always very hard for me. So I like to make sure that when I go in, I can sort them and find exactly what I'm looking for. If you do have any questions, as I mentioned, if you're later, you can simply type them in the questions box or yourself, and you can ask your question to the group too, okay? All right.
And for our late attendees, I'm making you guys presenters. So if you want to turn on your camera, sorry to.
That's right. You made them presenters?
No, yeah.
No, okay.
I got the two P's confused. In that.
I know. Let's try that again.
Hey, what's a class without having some fun with who's presenting?
It's those two P's. It gets you every time. All right. So again, the top of the screen here is going to be where you're going to enter one edit. Now you can also do an MLS number. There's also, you can actually enter up to 30 MLS numbers. I don't know why you would do it there because it's a little hard to see, but you can enter an MLS number. You can enter an address. You can even enter an agent's name. So let's say I ran into my friend Matt Vale at a restaurant. He tells me about a great new listing that he's going to list. I get up this morning and I'm a little foggy and I can't remember what the address is. I could type in Matthew's name into the power search and it's going to show me Matthew's contact information and the listings he has. So it makes it really easy to find an agent, an MLS number, or an address. Okay, so that is the power search, and think of it kind of like a Google-esque type search. Now, once you've pulled up properties, you can also easily text those properties over to a client. So there is a share button. So let's say I'm looking at this property. I think it's going to be perfect for the buyer that I'm talking to. I want to quickly text it over to that buyer. I can go up to that share button and I can hit the text option. I can then pull from a contact. So if I already have them in Paragon, I can send it to him that way. Or I can simply click add new contact, put in their cell phone number, first and last name, and I can text those listings right over to them. So easy to share those listings and faster to pull them up. All right, so now let's talk about the second way of searching. And by the way, my center section might look a little bit different than yours, and it's just because every broker here, and if you're with one of the MLSs we vendor, you might see the center section that is your MLS. The idea is everything else will be the same, but where I am, our brokers actually have control. They can put messaging in and things about upcoming office meetings, things like that. Okay. So when you log into Paragon, your sides are going to be the same, but they might be in a different order. And what I mean by that is when you've logged in, you might notice your quick search is over here on the left. Well, I am right-handed, and a lot of times I'm teaching on a podium like this one. So I like to have my quick search over on the right. It's a little easier for me to enter all of that information. So don't be afraid to move those around, and all you have to do is drag and drop them, and they will remain there. So if you if you're like me and you're right-handed and you want your quick search on the right side, don't be afraid to go up to that top, grab it, and drag it into the position you want. Also, I noticed they put Paragon News at the top. Let's face it, the tech people might want to read that, but we don't as agents. So you can move all that stuff to the bottom. Put the stuff you really need in front of you. Working with a couple buyers right now, I want to know, do they have new favorites that are being sent to them? So maybe you want to have your contact box up at the top. I scheduled some appointments yesterday. I want to see, did those get confirmed? So I want to have my showing time widget right there. So don't be afraid to customize this the way you want it to work for your business. One of the other things is it's really aggravating to me to always have to scroll down to find the important fields that I search on all the time. So if there's, let's say you're in your quick search and you constantly find yourself scrolling down, don't be afraid to go in and customize those fields and move them to the top so you're not always endlessly scrolling to enter the same information. So what I mean by that is if you go up to this little gear right here at the top of the box, and you click on that gear, that's going to open everything in this box where it says selected fields. These are all the fields that are currently in your quick search. So if I want to, let's say above grade square footage is really important when I'm searching to me, I might want to move that to the top of my search box so that I don't always have to scroll. So I can actually put them in the order that I want, hit apply, and it's going to customize my quick search in that order. So if you are finding that there's a bunch of stuff in your quick search you don't use, get it out of there. Put fields that you're actually going to search on. So if I go back, here's what I want to show you. If you do not have the full addresses field, you definitely want to add that. So let me show you what that is. As I mentioned before, if you have 30 addresses that a buyer just sent to you, you don't want to do 30 searches and write down the MLS numbers, because that's what I was doing and it was painful. And so Debbie, myself, Dawn, Lisa, we came to Brian and we said there has to be a better way to get this faster than the consumer. That is where the full addresses field was born. The full addresses field works like this. All you do is go into the full addresses field and start typing. You can hit enter and then add in your next address and your next and so on. The idea here is if you know it's active and pending, you can even put that in there so you get just the results that you're looking for. So you could put that in your status. But the cool thing here is it doesn't matter if it's 123 Main Street, Main Boulevard, Main Way, it doesn't matter. It's still going to pull that up because behind the word Main is an actual built-in wildcard. It's kind of like an asterisk that you don't see. And what it does is no matter if it's circle, place, boulevard, way, whatever the word is behind Main, it's still going to pull it up for you. Now then there's the case of, and we'll use Matt again. Let's say Matt is, he gets a call from a buyer. The buyer is on Gratiot, but he doesn't know, is it northbound Gratiot or southbound Gratiot? So he might want to use an asterisk. So in this case, we'll do 356 asterisk Gratiot. That will allow you to pull up whether it's on North Gratiot or South Gratiot, it'll still pull it up. This is really the only field you want to use an asterisk on. The reason is it's trained to look and find those because sometimes, unfortunately, agents will spell out North or they'll put North period or another MLS will have it divided. So an easy way is to just type in the beginning of the address, that asterisk, and it will pull in those directionals for you. But you don't need an asterisk at the end. It's already built in and it will find those quickly for you. So you can enter up to 30 addresses in this field. You can then hit search, pull them all up, and you can text them right over to that client. So I'm going to go ahead and I don't even know if these are real addresses. I just put a couple things in there quickly. You can go ahead, simply do your search. You can pull those up now and again, text them very quickly over to that buyer that you're talking to. So the days of having to search one at a time, thankfully, are over. And I know I appreciate that. But you do want to make sure you have added that full addresses field. Once those results again come up, you're going to go right to, take it a second. I know we don't have a whole lot of bandwidth in this building. Once you find those properties that you want to send over to the buyer, you can simply check them off. Again, you're going to go up to your share. You can send it as a text. You can send it as a collab link, which kind of looks like the collab center. I usually just quickly text them over to a client and then they have them right away and we can discuss them on the phone. So if you have not added the full addresses field, I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So in your full addresses, so we're going to go back to our quick search. And by the way, you can add the full address field to the quick search. You can also add it to your traditional searching. So if, again, if you just want to open up a residential search and pop those in there, you can do that too. So I'm going to go over to this gear that you see right here at the top. I'm going to pull full addresses out because I want to show you how to add that in. If there's something you don't want in your quick search, just select it and hit remove. If you're constantly scrolling past stuff, get it out of there. Put in the real things we're searching on: square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, price, area, things like that. So now let's talk about how to add full addresses in if you don't have it. Just the easiest way is to simply go up to this find box, start typing the word in full. See, pops right up for you. I'm going to check full addresses. I'm going to add it to my list. And then the key too is you just want to rearrange where do you want that in your search. So I usually have it right up here at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and move that to the top. Good morning. Good morning. And then we're going to go ahead and hit apply. So the next thing I want to show you, so once you have your quick search in the order you want, it's going to be a little bit easier. But don't remember, you're not limited to just customizing your quick search. You can actually do that in your traditional search. All right, so I'm going to throw in the same thing, the full addresses field in a traditional search. Now, a lot of people don't know when they're using Paragon, not only can you search for houses under the search icon that you see right here, but you can find your saved property searches here. You could find your inventory. Maybe you want to know how much you've sold for year to date. You can find that here. Maybe you want to find upcoming open houses. You can find that here as well. So the idea is you can go right here under the search and you can search for multiple different things. Here's a little tip too. So today we're just going to do a residential search. We're going to talk about, setting our buyers up with homes in the Collab Center. Debbie's an expert in the Collab Center. I love the Collab Center. We're going to show you some auto prospecting you can set up for your buyer. So a new property automatically gets sent to the buyer. But there are different class searches, of course. But maybe Ed says, you know what, I've got a buyer he'd look at vacant land to build his dream home, but he also said if I find him a good fixer-upper, well, he'd look at that too. So Ed doesn't want to set up two searches, so he can actually go down to the multi-class search. What that does is it crosses over the property types and it says, okay, I'm going to give you all the fields, and he can fill out exactly what he's looking for, do one search, and now set that buyer up to receive those things. So different options there too. But today we're going to do kind of a run-of-the-mill search. We're going to say that we are working with a red-hot buyer. He needs to find something. We're going to find him a single-family home. So we're going to go search by class, residential. And then again, don't be afraid to go in and move these fields around. So just as I showed you in the quick search as it being customizable, you can do the same thing here. So once you open up your search, you could say, okay, I want to customize the fields or the order of the fields. So if there's something like, we'll use full address again. If you want to add your full address to this search, you're going to go to that find box. And again, type in the word full. Check it off, hit add, and then it's always going to drop it at the bottom for you. So I'm going to say I want to move it from the bottom right up here to the top. So the idea is don't be afraid to, there's a lot of stuff the tech people put in here that you're probably never going to search on. Take that stuff out. You don't want to always have to scroll to the bottom. You want to have it in the order that is going to be easiest and most efficient for you. All right, so let's say we are working with that buyer. If you don't know what goes into a particular field, like type, just click on that magnifying glass to the right, and it's just asking you, are you looking for a condo, single family home, or a farm? I'm going to say we're looking for a single family home. If you wanted to add things like zip code, some people tell me, I would love to be able to search by zip code. You can do that. I'm going to jump down just a little bit. Of course, you can search by area, but here's something I didn't know. So here's another quick tip. This kind of drove me crazy for a while. I think it was Debbie who actually showed me this. In Michigan, I would assume that there is one Clinton Township in the state of Michigan, right? Yeah. Wrong. There's actually 5, which blows my mind, because how do you know which Clinton Township you want to set up for your buyer, right? It doesn't really make sense, because if you pick the wrong one, they're not going to get houses where they're looking. So how do you know which of these Clinton Townships is the right Clinton Township for this buyer? Well, the key here is the first 2 digits are actually a county identifier, okay? So 50 happens to be for Macomb County. So if I go down to county and I type in the word Macomb, it's going to show me the identifier is 50. So now I know that it's 50. I could go back to area and I could say, okay, I'm looking for the Clinton Township that starts with 50. That's going to be Macomb County. Now, an easier way is, if you don't want to have to do that, you could always fill out the county first. So now if I type in Macomb County and I go to the area, you can see it's only bringing up one search result, the Clinton Township that's going to be in Macomb County. But here's the reason I'm showing you this. I know you're probably thinking, okay, well, that's no big deal. But the reason I'm showing you this is because I learned an amazing trick to basically picking all the cities in a county except 1 or 2. So let me give you an example. Let's say that Matt is working with a buyer. He says, you know what, Matt, I'm an investor. I buy houses. I'm looking for pretty much anything in Macomb County, except maybe I'm not looking around that Fraser area, or maybe I'm not looking around that Centerline area. Those are the 2 areas I want to stay away from. So now Matt could get out a map and figure out all the cities, and he could start typing them in one by one. But what a pain in the neck that would be, right? You got to type in, 36 different cities? I mean, that wouldn't make any sense. So here's a quick tip. If you go over here to the right where the magnifying glass is, and you say, I want to see everything in Macomb County. So we know Macomb County starts with 50. And instead of contains, we actually want to do begins with. So what this just did is it brought up the 26 cities. So if you can see right here, it actually brought up the 26 cities in Macomb County. So I'm going to say I want to set this buyer up with everything in Macomb County, except he didn't want the Fraser area and he didn't want the Centerline area. Now when I hit save, look what happened. It just filled in 24 cities that I didn't have to manually go in and type. Everything is in there except the 2 areas that he didn't want. And you can see in the criteria summary, which appears over here, these are all of the things that we've added in. If you've made a mistake and you don't want to have to go remove all of these cities, you can always hit that X and it's going to take that right out of there. All right, so that was something I did not know how to pick, especially if you're looking in 2 counties and they want to stay away from just, 1 or 2 cities. You don't want to have to type all of that in. So again, all you're going to do is you're going to go to that area field. You're going to click on that magnifying glass. You're going to say, I want to change it from contains to begins with. I'm looking for everything in Macomb County. And again, you could be in Genesee County, that would be 23, whatever the identifier is. Hit enter, check them all off, and then you can simply deselect those particular areas that they weren't looking for. Okay, so hopefully that saves you a little time. I don't know about you, but I was that agent going into the map and trying to figure out what are all the cities that I want to enter here. And that is way too time consuming.
Well, now Brian also add the equals to the right of that one too, which was it's a new feature too.
Yeah.
So you can do the same just in a different way.
Yeah.
That's what I love about Paragon. It's like getting into my house. I can go by the front door, the side door, the back door, garage door.
True.
Yeah. True. Paragon is the same exact way. You could do it one way. I could do it one way. You could do it another. And I love Paragon about that.
Yeah, I like that it really, if you look at a lot of other MLSs, and I'm thinking of 2 And I belong to multiple MLSs, so I can go and teach, and I can, a lot of times people will say, well, I belong, it's not here in this one, or it's here, and usually it's just searching error. But anyway, when you go into these other MLS platforms, when you add things, it always seems to drop it in other MLSs at the bottom where it stays. You can't really customize it. And that's a pain. I don't want to have to scroll down 2 pages of information to add in something that I use all the time. And that's really one of the keys here. Okay, so now obviously when we're adding in more information, I'm going to put in things like status. If I'm working with a buyer, I want to put in actives and pendings, maybe. Maybe I want them to, actually, we'll just do actives to make it nice and easy. If you want to be more selective of the actives, you can go to that magnifying glass, and let me show you what I mean. Of course, I want my buyers to see coming soon. And not every MLS uses coming soon, but your buyers are still going to see it on Zillow and other places. So you want to explain to them that there's an activation date on coming soons. But I personally don't like to show buyers ABOs because an ABO is accepting backup offers. If you're new, we've always accepted backup offers. As licensed law, we have to present every and all offers. So we, of course, have to accept backup offers. You can't say, no, I'm not going to look at them. So we've always done that. But what an ABO actually is it's pretending to be active, but really there's a signed contract on that home. So you need to explain to your buyers what that means is, don't fall in love with an ABO, because really we can look at it and it is active on the market. We can schedule an appointment, but you may not get it because another buyer has already gotten a signed accepted offer. So that's what an ABO is. But you can actually choose the statuses that you want your buyer to be sending out to your buyer automatically. And if you want to be more selective, again, you can click on that magnifying glass. But let's talk about buyers today. Used to be, a buyer might be looking in a smaller area. Now, let's face it, buyers are looking at multiple cities, multiple areas. So the searching by map is really crucial. So let's actually go in. Let's do a search by map, and I'll show you what I mean. So when we go into search by map, Brian has opened this up so that you can actually search the map, and you can do 10 different shapes on your map. So when you go into the search by map, you can be a lot more selective. And why this is so important, I was teaching a class out in Flint the other day, and this very, very nice lady, she stood up and she said, Colleen, I think Paragon's broken. And I said, okay, well, tell me why you think it's broken. And she said, I live in this particular sub. I go into the field, I put in the subdivision name, and I get one result, and there's 10 signs in my sub right now. So I don't think the data's working. And I said, okay. So when you're entering a subdivision name, that is generally not a required field. So that means an agent may choose, and especially in a market where things are selling so fast, they may choose not to fill anything in to that field because it's an optional field for some of the MLSs. The problem is if you're searching on it and the agent hasn't filled anything in, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? So I said, let's do this. Let's do a subdivision search on the map, because that's guaranteed to come up. If you are entering a listing, it forces what we call a geocode. It knows where that listing is. Sure enough, as soon as we search the sub by map, not by the field, all of the listings appeared. And she goes, oh, I didn't think about that. So if you're searching on a field that is an optional field, you could be missing results. Therefore, you might want to try searching on the map instead. So when the map opens up originally, it will open up with a red X where your office is, because that's really what the MLS knows about you, right? Is where your office location is. So we plop you there. Now you could actually go in and move the map around with your fingers. I don't know about you, but I start doing that, and all of a sudden I'm looking at all the continents and I'm like, okay, how do I get out of Asia? Because I'm stuck there. So here's a really easy way. If you are, let's say, looking for comps on a particular property, maybe you're going to list a property tonight. I know Ed's a big lister. If he's looking for comps for a listing appointment tonight, an easier way than moving your map around is to simply go to this address find box right here. So let's say that we are looking for comps on 41539 Wessel Drive. think of this kind of in a Google-esque way too. You want to put less information in. What I mean is don't put in, this happens to be Wessel Drive. Don't put in the drives. Don't put in the ways or the places. Leave those off. You really want to just put in the route street name, comma, and the city. So let's do that. That's going to drop you right to where that property is located. If you're looking for comps, so let's say Ed is looking for comps and he wants to do what an appraiser is going to do in that area, I can actually go to that search radius, hit the number 1, and we can actually do what an appraiser is going to do in that area. We can then find those closed comps within 1 mile. Now, you don't have to do 1 mile. You could do 2 miles. You could do 2.25 miles. You could actually make it larger or smaller by simply typing that in here. But every once in a while, especially if you're out in a rural area and you're looking for comps, you don't really want to throw 3 miles in there because you might get way too many comps. Maybe you want to see how far you need to go to get more comps. So here's another little tip. If you go over to this edit button over here to the left, you can actually click on the shape that you've created. So I created a radius. I'm going to click on that. And you can actually grab those little dots and you can go out or in. So if you just want to see, okay, if I add a little more space, will I get another comp? And actually we did. You can see 2 more comps came. I didn't want to do, 3 miles because that would give you way too many comps. And I want to stay as close to the subject property as possible. So you can actually kind of drag that shape around. If you're working with a buyer, by the way, to close that, you simply click on it again. It's going to close that shape up for you. But if you are working with a buyer, and let's say the buyer says, Ed, I really like that area east of Garfield and north of Canal. So now Ed wants to actually map out the area he's looking for. So we're going to go back to our drawing tools, which are right here. I'm going to go to draw. And I personally like the Paragon because you can be a little bit more specific and precise in where you're searching. So I'm going to say, okay, so we have this buyer. Buyer wants to stay east of Garfield, does not want to go south of Canal. And all I'm doing is I'm literally clicking where I want my exact line to be. But let's say his mother-in-law lives over here right north of the library. So we're going to stay a little more on this side. We don't want to be too close to mom. And we're going to go ahead and draw our shape. The idea is you can click exactly where you want. We actually have a tech here who did a unicorn shape. It was really cool. So you can actually have up to 10 different shapes on your map. So maybe they're looking in Sterling Heights, but they're also looking in Rochester. I can go over to the Rochester area and now I can draw a shape on that area that they're looking for. And again, if they're looking for a specific subdivision, I would always recommend using the map to search the subdivision versus the field, because if the agent didn't fill it out, again, you're not going to get those details back. So there's some cool stuff that got added in here. One of the questions, before we go into the new stuff, one of the questions I also get is, well, they like this area. So Colleen, my buyer really likes this area, but you know what? Maybe there's a particular, maybe this little southern area he's not too fond of. Did you know you can actually draw a shape on a shape? So let me show you what I mean. So let's say he really likes, and you could do this, let's say that this is all of Macomb County. Let's say we did Macomb County, we drew our shape, but he doesn't really like this particular area of the county. You could actually draw a shape on a shape. You can go back to the shape where it says include. You could hit exclude, and now your buyer is not going to get any properties that fall in that excluded area. So if there's, let's say that, another example, let's say that you are coming up with comps and you are listing this little brick ranch right where our flag is, right? But Matt Vale's been out there. He's listing these great $1 million properties. We're going to pretend that these are 2 of Matt's $1 million properties right here. What I really want to do, if I'm listing this brick ranch and it's not on the water and his $2 million waterfront properties are going to mess up my CMA numbers, I don't want to have to go deselect a bunch of properties. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a shape Maybe I want to outline the waterfront. Again, we're going to pretend that these are Matt's $1 million waterfront properties, but I'm not listing a house on the water. So I don't want these numbers really screwing my search up. So I'm going to draw, again, a shape on the shape, but the only difference is I'm going to exclude that area. Now what you can see is it actually pulled that comp out. So Matt's $1 million listing is not going to show up in my CMA. Okay, does that make sense? And good job, Matt. Keep listing those $1 million properties because we so need it, right? With their shortage of inventory. And I know, it's been kind of a crazy month. I actually wrote an offer this weekend, and it's amazing to me because all the analysts said, well, we're going to see the market kind of drop out. 120 people came through the open house on the activation date of this property. 9 offers came in, and I think he said 5 of them were still over asking, over list. Oh. So I mean, it's kind of, and it varies city to city. Some cities we're seeing more inventory, some we're seeing less, but it's crazy time. So we've got to make sure that we're getting the searches right for our buyers because it's crucial. There's not enough inventory out there, so you don't want to miss a property. Okay, if you've made a mistake and you want to remove any of your shapes, you can simply click on the X, pull them off. Here's some of the new features. I'm going to remove some of these shapes because I want to kind of show you some examples. Some of the new features that have been added, you will find it kind of looks like stacks of paper, if you will. It's actually layers of your map. When you click on the layers, one of the new things that was added is floodplains with the labeling. Now, floodplains come from the FEMA maps, but if you have a buyer, and flood insurance, by the way, is quite substantial these days. If you have a buyer who says, you know what, Matt, I really don't want to have to pay flood insurance. Can we try to stay away from looking at those properties first? You may want to select the floodplain. It will show you the different types of, like, here's the floodway, here's it hasn't flooded in, or 500-year floodplain, 100-year floodplain, whatever it happens to be. When I zoom in, what you'll notice is it applies that floodplain to the map. So I know these might be areas that I want to stay away from if he doesn't want to pay flood insurance. Now I tell my buyers, this is not a survey. It's not meant to be an elevation search. It's nothing like that. It's just maybe a visual indicator of places that we don't want to look at if you don't want to pay flood insurance. Some of the other things, though, and the hardest part about using the layers is just remember to zoom in and zoom out. Parcel lines, here's another good example. So if I want to see, if I have a buyer who says, I'm looking for a little bigger lot size and I want to see, does that neighborhood have larger or smaller lots? I can actually apply the parcel lines. And by the way, you can turn the labels on and off, so it'll actually show you things like where, kind of move in a little bit, where you're looking at. It'll also, even if it's not listed, you can click into the parcel and you can actually see that property. So if they say, hey, I happen to think I heard somebody talking about that house is going into foreclosure, you can actually still see that property by clicking into the parcel itself. As you get closer, because I have the labeling on, I can even see the lot lines and the area line here right in the parcel. I can see the area size. I can see the lot line is 65 by 109. So that may be a smaller lot. He might not be interested in that one. So you can actually click right into, even though it's a non-listed property, of course you can do that with listings as well, but you can actually see the lot lines. And all you have to do is, again, go back to your layers here and apply your parcel lines. I had this was an interesting, so Flo Apke called me not that long ago, and she said, what would be really nice is when you're looking at this map, if you could see, because I have somebody who's a firefighter, and she said, I want to be able to make sure on the map it kind of all runs together, but I want to see the exact perimeters of the city lines when I'm searching, because he is a firefighter and he has to live within that city. He can't live outside the city at all. So how do I apply those? Well, you can actually go to your municipality here and you can label the municipality and it will color code it and it will show you where that municipality starts and stops. So I'm going to kind of zoom out just to kind of give you a little bit more of a visual indicator. But if you have let's say a firefighter who needs to live in Utica, You can see where your lines are, where you're going to draw your lines, or Sterling Heights. So when you're doing your searching, you can make sure that you're staying within that municipality. Hopefully that helps. I did not know that was there for a long, long time, so I thought I would pass that along.
Well, do you remember when we found bus routes in there?
Bus routes, yes. Yeah, we didn't know that was there. You know, really in our area, not that many people take the bus, I don't think. But in Ann Arbor, oh my gosh, everybody takes the bus. So when you're searching there, you can actually see the bus routes. You can see the what I think it even showed the time. Yeah, the stops and the times. I was shocked. I didn't know Paragon even did that.
I never found that in St. Clair, oddly enough.
Yeah, Richmond either. Yeah, it's like unless you're moving cows around up there, I don't think. But anyway, long story short, you can actually apply these different layers, and it does help when you're searching, so you can kind of get a more of a view. Another thing I didn't know was here for a long time. I'll take these off so they're not quite so distracting. I did not know about this little yellow guy. Now I know what he does in Google Maps, right? I mean, and we see him on everything. But let's say that you are going to go show a property and it's 2 hours away. You're going to show some family some property, let's say up north, maybe on Sage Lake, something like that. You want to kind of see the neighborhood without having to drive all the way up there, right? So you can actually grab this little yellow Google man. You can throw him in front of the street address, and it will even tell you where you're about to set him. So I grabbed him. I'm actually setting him right here in front of this property. And you can literally walk down the street and see the homes to the left, to the right. You can do a 360 view. I can walk out and I can check out the neighborhood without having to drive all the way over there. The other thing I like about doing that is it actually shows you. When I started our map search, I put in a property that I was going to list and I was going to look for comps. Do you see it actually even shows you where the flag is? So this is the address that we started off, that Westell Drive property. So it actually flags that for you. So you can see which is the house, and then I can check out the neighbor to the left and the neighbor to the right of that property. Kind of makes sense? All right, so when we're getting out of there, we're going to go ahead and hit that arrow, and then that's going to take us back to our map. Now, one thing I used to hate, I will be honest about Paragon, is I would get onto the map, and then I would say, oh my gosh, look at all these comps. I didn't put in my price, or I didn't put in how many bedrooms or bathrooms or whatever it happens to be. So in this case, I didn't take out the leases. I can see there's leases on here. It used to be I'd go and hit this back button and it would close me out of the program and I would get so frustrated. Now your criteria and map are always open. They're right here. So if I forgot to add something, I can hit criteria, jump right back without missing a beat, and I can go in and say, okay, maybe there's, I'm going to kind of dwindle this down here. We're going to say that we are looking for just Sterling Heights. Maybe we're just, again, looking for actives. I'm going to take those leases out, and I'm really just putting in my buyer's criteria. I'm going to say that my buyer's been pre-approved up to 700,000. I wish that's not my case, but that's okay. So you can start entering your criteria here. Now, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of inventory out there, but a lot of times your buyers have those specific needs. Maybe they're looking for a pole barn. Maybe you have a buyer who can only buy on a land contract, and you're looking for land contract properties. Maybe you have a buyer who has a boat and he wants to be able to put his boat at the property. So here's a cool tip. When you're scrolling down, and you can see that it asks, you know, is there a basement? Yes, no. Do you want a garage? Yes, no. Okay, so I can add all of that in, not a big deal. Maybe he wants a one-story home, but really the devil's in the details, right? Because if he's told Matt 8 times, I only want to see houses with a finished basement, and you're sending him everything with the basement, he might find another agent because he's specifically telling you, I want a finished basement. So how do you add that level of detail? Like, yes, we can see that there's a garage, but what if we're looking for an attached garage only? What if you have a certain need that buyer keeps expressing to you? You don't want to send them everything. You want to dwindle it down to that specific thing. So I'm going to go down to our features category. This is where you can really put that level of detail in. And features kind of work like this. Must have, the buyer says, absolutely do not show me a house unless it has this. Okay, so maybe finished basement. I could go start typing finished, and I could pick finished basement. Maybe you have a buyer who says, I don't want to see any houses with a pool. I find them very inconvenient. I don't want to deal with a pool. I could start in the must not have, and I could type in pool, and he's not going to see anything that has a pool. Now, where I used this the other day is I had a client who we were closing on her home in Lenox, and she was going through a divorce, and she said, well, my husband said that the septic is new. Now, it's the dead of winter, right? And turns out the septic field was not new. It was 20 years old. It was leaking like a sieve, and she found out right before closing that we were going to have to put in a raised engineered septic field in the amount of $17,000. She's very unhappy. So when we started looking for houses, the first thing she said to me was, I do not want to see one house on a septic field. And I totally got it. I totally understood. So what we would do is we'd go to must not have, type in the word septic, and we can eliminate any homes that are on a septic field from coming directly to her. So a couple options there. Then there are those clients who maybe must have one or more of these. Maybe you have a client who says, I must have a pole barn or an oversized lot to build. So it has to have at least one of these items. So how do you know what categories and what features are there? Because by the way, there's something like, I think we counted them at one time. I think Brian said there's over like 10,000 features thanks to the UP. We have a lot more now. We brought the UP on, and I kid you not, it's different up there. Because of the geography, we got a call, and one of their requests was, we don't have outhouses in here. We have a ton of out, and I'm like, really? So, different things for different MLSs, and now we're sharing, with almost the entire state. So we've added a lot. So there's a ton of features in here. When you go over to the right of the features, you can click on that magnifying glass, and it will break them into categories for you. So if the basement type is finished, you can go to basement, must have finished basement. Now I'm only going to see properties that have a finished basement. Those are going to go right to my buyer automatically if I set up the collab center. So you can actually be much more specific if they have something that they have to have a finished basement or have to have a pool, something like that. If you scroll down in these categories, there's some other good ones that we get calls on all the time. And that's kind of how Debbie and I created this class. It was, what's the common calls? Debbie does a great quick tips video series. I think she's like 60 videos now?
65, I think.
65. Yeah. So what she did is all the things we were getting commonly through our support, she did these 1 and 2 minute awesome videos that just talk about, here's a quick tip, here's how to do this. So I'll show you where all those are located too. So, but one of the things that we got a lot of calls on was financing. How do I find a particular home that the seller's going to look at land contract terms? Well, you can actually go into features under financial, and you could say, okay, I only want to send my buyer automatically things that have land contract terms selected, or FHA 203K financing, things like that. Another one that I think is really popular is the water features. If you have a client who has a boat and he says, Colleen, lakefront would be awesome, but I don't know if I can just afford that. So, if it has canal frontage, as long as I can put my boat there, I could do canal frontage. I'd consider Harson's Island. Lake frontage would be great, as long as I have river access. So as long as it has one of those selected by the agent, it will automatically go out to my buyer in the collab center. So some cool ways that you can kind of add even more detail. So again, features are located right in your search. And again, don't be afraid to move these fields around. When I started using Paragon, I didn't even know the secondary criteria was here. I don't know if anybody else knew that, but I'm like, what are you talking about? So if you go down to secondary criteria and you click that little drop down, what's interesting to me is when I started using this, acreage and year built were in secondary criteria. And I don't know about you, but as an agent, I use that all the time. So don't be afraid to move it out of that bottom box. Put it up here at the top. Don't be afraid to customize the order of your fields to make your searching easier. All right. If you, let's say that you walked away from your computer and you, let's say, took a call, and now you log back in I don't know if everyone's aware, but your last searches are always kept. So if you've searched on something and you walked away and then you're like, oh, geez, I don't know what I did with those results, you can pop back to your last searches and you can pull them up again. You can also load a saved search. So if you've saved it for a client and you want to pull it up from here, you can do that as well. Now, really, the cool thing about the next thing that we're going to cover, the Collab Center, is once you have your search set up, the hardest part about automating that search, so automatically those properties go to the buyer, the hardest part about that is really having the search and saving it to the contact record of that person you want it to go to. That's really how hard it is. But I get a lot of questions about the Collab Center, and it's because we teach you in all of our classes that all your tools are under that resources button, right? But then you go to the resources button and you go, well, where the heck is the Collab Center? That lady with the fuzzy hair, she said all the tools were here. It's certainly not here. Well, that's because it's really the MLS. It's really the Collab Center is the MLS, but it's the client-facing side. So I've gotten really good luck with turning my buyers off of Zillow and Realtor.com and a lot of things that they're trained and have seen commercials for years. They think Zillow is the place to go, right? But what if I told you you could tell your buyer, you know what, use the Collab Center because it's the MLS. I'm going to set you up with what the agents use. Because that's exactly what it is. It's the MLS database. And a lot of times that stuff in Zillow is outdated. And we know that as the agent, but unfortunately our clients don't know it yet. But then what happens is they get all mad and they call and they say, Matt, why didn't you send me, 123 Main Street? Matt looks it up and it closed 30 days ago, but the client doesn't know that. So what I tell my clients is use the same thing I use as an agent. I'm going to set you up in the MLS so you see properties 30 seconds after they're added. They're going to come out to you. You can favorite them, and I immediately see them. So I'm going to kind of take you through a real quick tour. Debbie does an awesome Collab Center class, by the way. She will take you through all the bells and whistles. This is not a full Collab Center class, but I want you to kind of see the cool things that are there, and then take her class and she'll show you everything. She'll show you the sell side, the buy side, how to change it. But I want to kind of give you a real quick once over just so you can kind of see what it looks like. So again, there is no button for the Collab Center because it's simply setting up a search and marrying it to the contact record and then turning it on so that they have this really great tool. So I'm going to kind of take you through, I'm going to click on contacts here. I'm going to take you through how you're going to see it as the agent. So once you've set up your search, and I'm going to leave this open, I'm going to go over here to contacts because I want to show you the Collab Center first, and then I'm going to show you exactly how to turn it on for your client. So under contacts, I want to be able to see what my clients are seeing. I also want to be able to favorite what my clients or see what they're favoriting and schedule appointments from there. So I'm going to show you a real life person that I'm working with, and I'm actually showing houses to tonight. We set him up with the Collab Center, and he and his wife are first-time home buyers, and they're the ones that we were writing on that house that there were 9 offers and all kind of craziness. But what happens is they go into the Collab Center, and they can then go in and favorite things. They can ask questions, anything that they how it works is when a property gets sent out to them, that when they don't favorite it, it goes into their undecided so they can go back and see them. But in this case, I can see that they have 6 favorited homes that they want to see. And as I scroll through, when they're going in to these houses, they can click on View Detail. They can see things like the seller's disclosures and the lead-based paint disclosures. They can see, obviously, photos of the interior of the property. They have a nice, clean, and easy view as well. They can send comments or questions that they may have. They can see all of the details for the property. But here's the cool part of this. If you can get your clients to favorite houses by simply clicking the favorite button, it sends that to you, the agent, automatically. So immediately I know which houses that they're interested in seeing. Now, instead of me then picking up the phone and calling the buyer and saying, okay, Mr. Schmagegi, when would you like to see this? And he's like, oh, hang on, I got to check with Mrs. Schmagegi. Let me call you back. They can actually even go right down here to request the time and date that they'd like to see it, and it sends it to you, the agent. So now you know the house they want to see and the time that they want to see it. So it eliminates a lot of extra calls and texts and all of that. Now here's where it gets cool. When you are looking at this, so they're seeing it in a nice, easy, user-friendly, basically a portal into the listings. But the cool thing is, me as the agent, I can see when I added them from the contact record. I can see when they last logged in, so I know, oh, yep, they logged in today. I can see when the last notification got sent to them. But I can also now see that they've favorited these 4 houses, right? So I'm going to click on that number 4. This is my favorite part, right? And I'm going to say I want to schedule those 4 houses, which actually I did. I want to schedule these 4 houses so we can get in and see them this weekend. I can select all 4 of those properties that they favorited. Of course, I can see them as the agent. But there is a hidden button, and I say it's hidden because for a long time I didn't know it was there at least. This little plugin or action button allows you to set up a showing cart for all 4 of those properties. So I've dropped them in. I now hit showing time, and I can now set up a showing time cart. So I'm going to create a new showing time cart. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And I'm going to say 2 of these are coming soon this weekend. So I'm going to say I'm going to show them on the 25th. You can add a client's name. So in this case, maybe I'm showing it to Philip and Ann here, or you can add them in from scratch. And I kind of got nervous about that at first, to be honest, when they said put your buyer's name in here. I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I'm comfortable. What if the listing agent knows these people? Well, it only shows you and your broker their names. You don't have to worry. The seller doesn't see this. This is just so you can keep track of how many homes you showed. I had a couple, they were expecting a baby. We started looking. Of course, the baby comes along and we stop looking for a little while. When we go back, when we started searching again, it showed everything we had already seen. So they sent me a property. We had actually already seen it. And I said, well, actually, we looked at that. So you can actually see what you've shown to them. It basically kind of gives you also a history of, on average, how many properties you're showing to your buyers. So it does some cool stuff like that. But anyway, I'm going to pick that I'm going to send this, I'm going to set this up for Philip and Ann. I'm going to set up these 4 houses. But when you look at this, it kind of drops them in the order we selected them from the MLS. The problem is that might not be the logical driving order. And with gas being so expensive, the last thing we want to do is drive from one end of the city back and all over the place. So what I want to do is I want to hit Smart Route. That's going to put them in the logical driving order. As you can see, it actually changed the pattern. So we're not driving from one end of the city back and then over here. And it actually does what we used to do with the old map books, or, getting our Google Maps out and trying to figure it out. But it does some really cool things like tell you how long it's going to take to drive from property 1 to property 2. So with shorter now that we're still seeing a lot of buyers, not finding their house after a while, we're seeing shorter appointment windows. So the agents are saying it's a 30-minute appointment window. So I want to make sure I've given myself enough time to show the property and to drive to the next property. And if they're considerable distances away, you want to make sure you've got those timed right, especially if the agent has an electronic lockbox on the property, because a lot of those have windows. You have a 15-minute window and you're done, right? So you want to make sure that you're scheduling appropriately. You can also drag and drop these into an order. So as you can see, I can drag and drop the properties in the order I want. If there is a go and show property, meaning you're going to get the lockbox right away, under appointment type, it will actually tell you that. It'll say it's a go and show. So if you're running out last minute to show a buyer, you might want to start with a go and show, because that's going to mean you get the lockbox right away. You're not standing on the porch while they're trying to confirm an appointment, right? But why I like this is you can pick a time right from here. It will also tell you if it's an electronic lockbox. It will tell you, if you can see here, it says, do you have access to central locks? I'm going to know right now if this is actually going to be a central lockbox or not, and it happens to be. If I want to pick an appointment time, let's say we're going to show it from 3:30 to 3:45. I know it's going to take me 17 minutes to drive from this property to this property. I can also see if there's blackout times. Now you can see this one does not have an electronic black box. So I'm going to go.
Road says it's marked up, whatever. Oh, he's got prices marked on each parcel. A, B.
Thank you. So so now I can go ahead and set up these times, and I can see where my times fall. I can see if there's other appointments. If they don't allow overlapping appointments, it's not going to let me book for that time. It'll show those blackout areas. And I can go pick all of my times, send all of my requests at once, and I can even send turn-by-turn directions to my buyer so that he's not calling me saying, hey, which house are we starting at again? Which is number 2? Where are we going next? You can actually send those right over to the buyer. Another cool thing you can do is if you're starting from your house, you're not starting from the office, you're starting from a different direction, you can actually go in and add another address in here. So I can start maybe from my home address, or maybe you're taking this buyer to lunch. Maybe it's a relocation buyer. You want to put the lunch address in the driving directions. You can do that. And I don't know what it is. I think it's my crazy hair, but I always get those kind of challenging buyers. Like I'll get everything all set up and they'll call and they'll say, great news, Colleen. We found 2 more houses we want to see tonight. You can actually go back in and just click add listing stop. And you can actually put in a listing number and you can pull those into your cart as well. So pretty easy. I love the Collab Center because it just makes it so much easier to drop all of those in the cart. I can see what they're looking at. But then if you have challenging buyers, like I mentioned, I seem to come up with more than my share. For instance, I had a lady, we closed her house. She was just a gem of a lady. I loved working with her. It was just a nice, clean, easy closing. And she said, you did a really great job. I'm going to send my sister to you. So I thought, oh, great. She's so nice. The sister has to be nice too, right? No, not so much. So set up the sister. I only had one quick conversation with her, set her up in the Collab Center. And she literally called me and said, Colleen, if you send me one more yellow-sided house, I'm going to get another agent. And I said, oh, well, first of all, I didn't know you didn't like yellow siding. And second of all, there is no button in the MLS that says remove yellow siding, right? So in that case, you may want to set that person up in the Collab Center, but you may want to set them up with the agent preview rule, which means it basically sends it to you, the agent. You get to look at it first. If I decide that, yes, this would be good, well, we'll use Tom Schmagegi here. Do you see how you have an approve all? It doesn't automatically go to the client until you've looked at the property. So if I click here, I can say, okay, yeah, she's going to like this one, but not this one, and I can approve that. It would automatically now go out to the client. So it gives you a little bit more control. Then there is the agent recommended feature. Let's say that Matt has a client. They said to him 22 times, Matt, we're only going to live in St. Clair Shores. We love St. Clair Shores. We love the parks. We only want to live in St. Clair Shores. So Matt is trying to find him something in St. Clair Shores, can't find anything. And then 2 streets out of St. Clair Shores, his friend lists the property and he knows it's perfect for them. He sees the photos and he says, you know what? This is a great property. This is perfect. But it's not going to pop up in their Collab Center because it's not the exact criteria Matt put in. But he knows it's perfect, so he can do an agent recommended, which does pop up in their Collab Center now, shows him the photos, shows him the details. And I actually had a deal with Dawn Waldrop, a friend of mine. It was that exact scenario. They were only looking in St. Clair Shores. She listed a house 2 streets outside of St. Clair Shores. I knew if they saw it, they would love it. So sure enough, I did an agent recommended. We actually wrote the offer right there and were able to close it off in about 30 days. So the idea is if you have a client who maybe is a little more challenging, you might want to use the agent recommended or the agent preview just to make sure that you have a chance to see them or a chance to recommend something that they might have not looked at otherwise. Okay, so to set up the Collab Center kind of just goes back to our searching. So I'm going to go back to our residential search. We're putting in all of the detail for that, what they're looking for. Now we're going to go save search as, and we're basically going to marry those 2 records. So I'm going to save search as. We're going to call this Debbie's Lotto search. when you win.
Favorite.
There you go. I know, I stole that from you. Now I want to marry it to Debbie's contact information. So all I'm doing is I'm naming the search, and now I want to add Debbie's info in. Debbie, what is that mailinator? What do you use?
Mailinator.
I always forget.
So it'll be Debiette, M-A-I-L-E-N-A-T-O-R.
That's why. Got to remember that. I keep doing IN and then it doesn't work. All right, and the reason we do this is you can only have a contact set up in here one time per email address. You can add more searches for that contact, but you only want them to have one portal. You don't want to have 5 portals and they're trying to remember passwords, right? You want them to have one portal that they go right in. So, but thank you. I keep forgetting the mailinator. So we are going to say, took me a while to remember how to spell.
Class, so much easier. I learned that in Kansas City when we were at Paragon training.
Oh man, that's a good tip. Yeah, I kept doing the IN instead of the EN, so now I'll remember. So all we're doing is we're basically, again, saving that search criteria. So it's exactly what that client wants with features, detail. You can use the map, put in a city, whatever it happens to be. We're now marrying that contact record, and we're going to hit save and notify. That's what turns on the Collab Center. So of course, now we're going to send our welcome so that, and by the way, it's got a little preview. You can customize your welcome. You can learn all of this in Debbie's class. Like I said, she teaches an awesome Collab Center class. But basically, we're now taking all of that information. We're sending them out a welcome so that they can start using the Collaboration Center. So as I jump down here, if you want to add a spouse or a partner that's also going to get those notifications, you can do that here. Under the contact information, you can even set up kind of a mini CRM. My son goes to a little school in Richmond, and I do a lot of this. I sponsor a lot of, the water bottles and the T-shirts and stuff. And I like to know how many clients I'm getting from that. Does it really work? And so you can actually put prospects in. So I did Jake's school SOI, and then when I'm adding a contact in, I just check that off so I know where that lead came from. At the end of the year, I can see, was it worth the money that I invested? And so a lot of details there. You can add more searches. And again, Debbie will walk you through that. Again, you can do an agent recommended, which allows you to recommend a listing that might not be popping up because it's not their exact search criteria. And there's even a sell side, so they can watch other properties around their listing. So if you're showing them houses, but you also have the property listed, you can actually associate that property so they can see what's going on, what competition they have in the market, maybe people dropping their prices, things like that. All right, one more quick tip I want to show you. I'm going to jump back to our home. And I have to give credit to Dawn Waldrop for this one, but I love it. If you are a pretty efficient Paragon user and you're like, you know what, I just don't want the extra clicks. I just want to do a residential search with one click instead of going to search and then picking the property and then adding the criteria. Did you know that at the bottom here, you actually have a speed bar? I did not know this for the longest time. A speed bar can not only take you into searching, but it could take you into your inventory. It could take you into Cloud CMA. It could take you into one of the resource tools that you use all the time. So if I don't want to have to do multiple clicks, just do a search for a single family property, I can actually click right here at the bottom of my screen and go into single family residentials. So if you like that, let me show you how to set it up. Right down here at the bottom, just like I've shown you a couple other places, there's a little gear. That gear allows you to customize what you want here in this quick searching option. So I am going to say, maybe I'll just add one. I'm going to take cloud out. Maybe I want to add in under my resources, maybe I want to add in the showing time link at the bottom, or maybe I want to add in market stats. I want to jump right into the market stats program. You can literally just select it, hit add. Again, just like I showed you before, you can move them around in the order that you want, and I can hit save. Now when I want to go right into market stats, I can just click on it. It takes me right there instead of doing those additional clicks, going to resources, finding it, clicking on it. So keep in mind that speed bar is really helpful for that. All right, so now if you have questions, now's a great time to, while I go over this next quick where you can find all this great stuff. If you have questions, now's a great time to either unmute yourself, or you can throw up your hand and we can unmute you if it's complicated. And you can also type them in the questions box. So we covered a lot of information, and you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, that lady talks so fast with the fuzzy hair. Where do I start? How do I get the help when I need it? So remember, you have tech support available 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. They're a great resource. A lot of times Debbie and I will even help out with tech support. Occasionally, you might even get us. The other thing is we have a YouTube channel that is going to show you this class as well as dozens of classes and Debbie's great quick tips that I mentioned before. She's done 65 quick tip videos. They're really short, they're brief, and it just walks you through those common questions that we've heard in tech support. So how do you find it? If you go under resources, remember I keep saying resources is your agent toolbox. It's where all your tools are. Cloud CMA, showing time, rent spree, links to RPR, all of the social media tools, the lead generation things that we talk about all the time. If you go under education, Debbie did an awesome job of putting a YouTube channel together. And if you click on recorded webinars, it will take you right to our YouTube channel. If you go to playlists, what she did is she organized them so they're really easy to find. So like this particular class would be the tips and tricks.
Great pride in providing it.
I know, that autoplay gets me every time. The tips and tricks are in here. So if you go to the Paragon MLS system, tips and tricks will be under there. If you click on view the full playlist, these are those great, remember I said Debbie does these great quick tip videos. All you have to do is click on it. You can fast forward to the part you need. Most of them are short and sweet, and they just take you right into that specific problem or concern you might be having, or maybe you just want to know how to do something. This is a really great way to find help. So the YouTube channel, again, you find it under resources. You'll also find Debbie's class list, so all the classes that she puts together. The education corner, she does a newsletter. If you've missed it, it's really cool. It tells you what's coming up, like when our photo field trips are, the photo classes. I know we're kicking off another round of roadmap this week. So I know, I'm excited about that. If you're a newer agent or you're trying to boost your production, if you've only been in the business a few years and maybe you're not where you want to be, Dawn Waldrop and I wrote a Roadmap to Success class. And what it is we took a lot of the great stuff we loved as agents from like Flying Tigers, Floyd Wickman, Sales Ninjas, and we sort of morphed into a 3-part class. It is the lead generation is what we open up with. Right now in this market, we need listings. We're going to show you how to go get those listings, how to use social media without spending money and bring in tangible leads, people to work with right now. We're going to show you not only how to put information out there, which is great. It's great to say you know the market, but how do you capture it? How do you get the lead and the name of that contact to work with? And so we show you how to do that in the lead generation class. Then Dawn really does a phenomenal job with the buyer class. What you need to know, how do you help your buyers know what the new taxes are going to be on a property? How do you get your buyers in those complicated electronic lock boxes? How do you figure out millage rates? Dawn covers, she just does an amazing job with that. In the buy class. And then I am more of a listing agent, so I take the third and final class, which is the listing class. So it's a really good series. You can sign up through the class registration link. Seats are limited for that one because we give you homework. I have to prep you that we give you homework, and if you don't do the homework, you don't get to come to the next class. That's how it works. So it's an interactive class. We're going to do it as hybrid like this, so you can either attend from home or you can actually come into the classroom, and that starts this Thursday, runs 3 weeks. Like I said, there is homework, but it's a lot of fun. We actually handle objections. We do role playing, and Dawn and I, it ends up being silly, and we have a great time. So if you can join us for that, we would love that. And then lastly, if you would prefer to read your help, I do not like to read when I'm frustrated. If I need help, I'm show me a video and make it work for me. But if you would prefer, some people are checklist people, if you prefer to use a checklist for help, or flyers. Debbie has put together almost 90 flyers, 89 to be exact.
102. That's the one for all of our vendor MLSs.
Oh, 102.
Oh, yeah. Scroll down for our, because ours is up the top and all those other.
You won't
These are
see all
my real
this. Yeah,
stars.
I apologize. And because I teach for all the other MLSs, Debbie and I see this. But Debbie has actually put together a cheat sheet folder.
Second on the right.
Sorry, squinting here. So 102 different cheat sheets under MRIS education. And the cool thing is you don't have to scroll through 102. Don't worry. You can say, you know what, I just want the lead generation flyer. How do I do lead generation? Type it in that search box. It'll pop up. It'll give you 4 lead generation tools. You can click on it. Just basically creates a PDF that you can follow along. And Debbie did a really nice job of like highlighting exactly where to click on these. So you don't have to like do a lot of reading. It's kind of really walking you through step by step. So she shows you where the lead generation tool is, what you click, how you post it, things like that. So those are available too. So we are recording this class. So it will be uploaded. Debbie, will it be uploaded?
This class tomorrow.
Okay. Debbie's going on vacation, so I didn't want to put her under the gun. So Debbie will get this edited and uploaded to our YouTube channel tomorrow. So if you missed anything, if you had to step away for a call, hopefully to bottom line an offer or something exciting, you can always see that. Did I miss anything? Is there anything?
My gosh, there is so much in there. There's so many hidden gems in Paragon. It's awesome. I think if we gave them any more, their heads would explode.
I think so. It's a lot. We covered a lot. So hopefully that helps. I don't see any questions coming in. If you do have a question, like I said, you're more than welcome to unmute your line. We can unmute your line if that's hard for you. And you're more than welcome to throw them in the questions box too. And I think Debbie put some handouts in there.
Yep.
So
5 of them there. And thank you guys for being on camera in the classroom and being part of the virtual class today. We absolutely love that. Because it is hard teaching to a blank screen at times. You got to keep your energy up. And Colleen and I, we've been doing this for a couple of years.
yeah, just a few. So.
The interaction is nice. The interaction is very, very nice, and we love it.
All right. Any questions? No? Oh, did I see a flash? All right, well, happy selling, everybody. Go out and list some stuff, okay, because we need some inventory, and it's slim pickings out there, so happy selling, and hopefully we'll see you at an upcoming class soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.